Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. I am here today with my first reading wrap-up in a long time, and in this wrap-up I'll be talking to you about the books that I read in August 2023. I read 6 books. And even though the number isn't that great, I feel like the quality of those books was pretty great. So I'm pretty happy with that. I actually managed to finish a book that had been long pending. I think that's what gave me the push, the impetus to actually put so many books on my September TBR. And I'm well on track. It feels like, not in the numbers wise, but in terms of quality, because I've read 2 books so far and both of them have been great. So I think that hyping myself up like this and doing these wrap-ups and looking back on the books that I've read and looking back on the quality of the books that I read, it's going to be a good motivator for me. It's going to make me feel good, it feels like. So here we are. So of these 6 books, 4 were physical copies, 2 were e-copies, 1 was a library book, 1 was a review copy, and 1 was a subscriber pick, which finally went up after like months of procrastination. So without any further ado, let's dive right into this video and let me share with you all the books that I read in August 2023, which are, in my opinion, also book recommendations. All of them. The first book that I read in August was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto, and this is such a weird book, but in the best way possible. Vera Wong is one of the most annoyingly unlikable but also likable characters that you will ever read about, because this is the story of Vera Wong and her world famous tea house, which she names Vera Wang's world famous tea house, and she has these set notions about how young people should be, how old people should be, what you should be doing for your health, etc, etc, etc. She lives above her tea house, and one day when she does all of her schedule and she comes down for the day, she sees that there is a dead body in her tea house and she is taken aback. But going by how strong-willed she is, she immediately takes on some responsibility. She's called the police, but she takes it upon herself to investigate, and the police are a little annoyed because of how nosy she is being. Her trying to figure out all of this while getting close to the people in that dead man's life and who might have been suspects, and how this whole thing develops, how Vera Wong's maternal instincts just bubble to the top, and how she manages this whole thing forms the entire story. It is such a strange book because throughout the book you're like, Vera is so annoying, she is irritating, etc, 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 but you find yourself beginning to like the woman despite her unlikable traits. You just think that, okay, now I want to protect this woman with everything I have. And it is one of the funniest, most heartwarming murder mysteries I've read in a long time. And this is one book that it's strange that I love so much, because there are so many elements to it that will just jump out at you, that will just take you by the hand and say, come, I'm going to lead you here, we are going to have a lot of fun. So if you are looking for a fun, heartwarming murder mystery, then this is one book that you should definitely pick up. I know I'm going to go and read all of Jessie Q. Sutanto's backlist books, and I think there's also a new one coming. Her writing is funny AF. I gave Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers 4.5 out of 5 stars. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this was a book that I was in the middle of when I started last month's Drama Queenathon, 36-hour Drama Queenathon, and I finished it during that time. This second book was a book that I picked for that readathon, and that book is Beyond the Gender Binary by Alok Vaid-Menon. And in this book, Alok talks about how the gender binary has been constructed by society as a way of keeping people in line. It does not want to see beyond it. It thinks that there are just 2 genders and it limits people to those 2 genders. And in this book, Alok, they explore so much more. They explore the different loopholes that come with this logic that society has placed out for everyone to see. Like, people are like, oh, you can either be a man or a woman. Who did that? who made that rule. And to see them talk about their experiences, to see them talk about this whole societal pressure, how cruel society can be, and what we can do, take little steps to make that better. This was a 5-star read for me, and I wasn't expecting anything less because I've heard so many good things about it. Plus, the points that they make in this book is just simply gut-wrenching, but also very, very important. Everybody must read this book to understand how it is for people who don't fit into the gender binary. And the gender binary is just a social construct. So just for humanity to experience, to express themselves, that needs to go down. This is a very short book. You can get through it in less than an hour. But I took my time with it because I wanted to commit everything to memory. And I know that there's going to be a reread very, very soon. And I feel like this is going to be very helpful to people who are questioning. If you are questioning, if you're not questioning, if you're straight, if you're on the LGBTQI plus spectrum, anything, it doesn't matter, read this book. And like I mentioned before, this was a full 5 out of 5 stars for me. Next, I picked up The Radleys by Matt Haig for that readathon, but I don't think I finished it during that weekend. The Radleys is obviously about the Radleys who live in a small town and their life goes by, but there are a lot of secrets, family secrets. They can't sleep, they can't go out into the sun without applying so much layers and layers of sunscreen, and they can't eat certain things. But one day when the daughter gets attacked on her way back from a party, on her way back home from a party, things are about to come out into the open. This is a book that I went into not knowing what to expect, and when that unexpected thing came also, I was like, I saw this coming. I don't know how that happened, but this somehow made sense. Then it went on and on and on, because this is not like these people are living undercover. There have been sightings in the past. I don't know if that will give you an idea about where this is going, but this book is about, let me tell you, 360 pages, and there is quite a bit of repetition in this book. But somehow, as you move towards the end, you find yourself rooting for the Radleys. You find yourself wishing or hoping that they get through this. I mean, that they get to live their lives, they get to do what they want to do, and it is really strange in its own way. It was also emotional for me for some reason. I didn't think this book was going to affect me that much because of what it is about, but Matt Haig does it. This is not one of my favorite books of Matt Haig's, but it is still a good one. I really enjoyed reading this, especially towards the end, because of how he brings in some concepts, how he ties them up, and how he makes them so emotional also. See, even in books that can figure among my least favorite of his works, he manages to do this. I gave the Radleys 3.75 out of 5 stars. So I think that explains it. Next is a book that you've seen me talk about in a spotlight video, and that is San Sattavan Ansuni Dastan by Ashraf Jamal. And this is a story of the early Indian independence struggle set a few years before the 1857 rebellion, and it continues up to, I think, a couple of years, a year or two after that. And this is one of the most hopeful things I've read about that struggle for independence, that initial struggle for independence, because that is where the foundation lay. It's written in Hindustani, and you see a lot of known historical figures, known freedom fighters, in those initial freedom fighters, come together in a book that brings strategy and patriotic feeling and that oneness, that unity together, and it brings out a facet of the Indian history that we have seen before, but not in this way, in such a hopeful manner. If you'd like to go watch that spotlight out, in which I have expanded more about this book, I leave the link here as well as in the description box below. I gave San Sattavan 4 stars out of 5. And then the book that I'd been putting off for so long, one, because it was such a huge task, because I was so intimidated by it, and because of the subjects that it talks about, and the vlog finally went up. And that book is Babel, An Arcane History by R.F. Wong. I have annotated, I have written, I've done, I mean, It's a lot. I think if you watch that vlog, you'll see how much I was just scribbling in these books, my thoughts. This is a story of Robin Swift, who is orphaned in Canton after Asiatic cholera breaks out, and Professor Lovell, he adopts him and brings him to London as his ward. He is promised a better life, and under Professor Lovell's guidance, he works towards becoming a translator, and he joins Babel, which is the Oxford University's translation center, and there he finds a cohort, he learns more about translation and the whole thing. But things happen, things develop and happen, and it comes to the point where the question is, can a student stand against an empire? And I think that's all I can give off without going into spoiler territory. But this is a book that is, oh my god, it has broken me in ways I cannot explain. And R.F. Kuang does that every single time. In this book, she talks about translation, the importance of translation, the different styles of translation, and there's this whole discourse. You can see words, their etymologies, their meanings, and all of this. And she ties it in with how translation is important for colonialism and how colonialism thrived, how it wrecked the lands of different people, took things for its own. It just infuriated me. It made me so angry. It just, my brain is imploding right at this moment. If you have an interest in historical fiction that imbibes history, actual points of history, then this is one that you should definitely read. I cannot recommend this book enough. Be sure I'll be talking about this book in a lot more videos than just this. It's going to be talked about a lot. I have been saying that I'll be reading Babel for a long time, and I finally read it, and now because I have read it and because I see the importance of this book, I will be recommending this. I will be shoving this book in your faces for a long time to come. I'm not sorry, but to see how it all pans out, how things just have a domino effect, it was just heartbreaking. I don't even know words at this point. And she does it with a generous mix of humor and sarcasm. So yes, this is a book that I gave a full 5 out of 5 stars to, very obviously. Oh, and that means I had 2 5 stars in August. Oh, amazing. If you'd like to go watch the vlog for Babel, which is like 50 plus minutes long, you can go watch me lose my mind, and I leave the link here as well as in the description box below. And the last book that I read in August 2023 and was just in the nick of time before the month ended was Vincent and Sien by Sylvia Kwan. We know of Vincent van Gogh's life. Vincent was in a relationship with a woman called Sien Hoornik. They lived together in The Hague for, I think, a year and a half or so. This book details their relationship. You could call this to be more of a historical fiction with real characters. Plus, we know so much of Vincent van Gogh's life from his perspective, but Sylvia Kwan tells this from Sien's perspective. Sien was a prostitute who Vincent van Gogh rescued off the streets, and then they fell in love. They fell hard and fast in love, and there was this whole thing about Vincent trying to become an artist, he trying to make money as an artist, but he was always dependent on his brother Theo for sustenance, for money, to make his art. And Vincent was someone who was so set in his ways, like he wanted to make money from his art, but he also didn't want to compromise on his heart, and he was very, very stubborn when it came to that. And how this affected Vincent and Sien's relationship is what this whole story is about. And we see Sien's helplessness and we see her strength through it all, because she was someone who was thrown out to the streets by her own mother. Society at the time was such that if you weren't associated with a man, society didn't see you as human. And it's so obvious in this book, the relationship that Vincent and Sien have, and how the doctors treated Sien before she was with Vincent and how they treated her after they realized that she was with Vincent. And Vincent's treatment development of her, so tender, so beautiful, and how his art, how his family, his view towards the world, his view towards art, and his absolute stubbornness to not do anything other than what he wants to do, how it affected their whole life, forms this entire story. And throughout this book we see their connection, how it blossomed. Despite Sien not getting a mention in Vincent van Gogh's introductions, she is just seen as just another side story of Vincent van Gogh's life. This book brings her to the center, and I really enjoyed reading this book because there was so much context to it. The historical research that the author has done is very obvious in the way the author writes this book, and this is one book that I would recommend you to read if you are interested in knowing more about Vincent van Gogh's life, especially this particular corner of his life. Then this is one book that you should definitely pick up. I gave Vincent and Sien 4 out of 5 stars. So those, can you see? Yes. Plus the ebooks, plus the library book which I've already returned, were the books that I read in August 2023. So what did you think of this video? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Have you read any of these books? If you have, did you like them? What did you read in August 2023? Did you have any favorite books that emerged from the month? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.